Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver here on our 2020 Mazda MX-5 Miata. So here's what our trailer hitch is going to look like installed. As you can see here, we have a nice collar around the receiver tube opening, as well as a black powder coated finish, which is going to do a great job of help protecting our hitch from rust and corrosion. Now our trailer hitch here also have what is known as a hidden design. Now with this hidden design, our cross tube isn't going to be visible. It's going to be hidden behind our bumper here. The only thing we're going to be able to see is the actual receiver tube opening. So this is going to give us a very clean finish install look. It's also going to make for the best ground clearance. So our trailer hitch is going to have a class 1 rating with a 1 1/4 inch by 1 1/4 inch receiver tube opening. Now this is going to be great. It can be used for towing or bike racks in a cargo carrier. Keep in mind, if you're going to be using a bike rack, you are going to be limited to 2 bikes because of the class 1 rating. And if we're going to be towing, we're going to be limited to 2,000 pounds for the gross trailer weight rating, which is the amount we can pull outward on our fully loaded trailer. We're also going to have a 200-pound tongue weight rating, which is going to be the downward force here on the receiver tube. So on the side of our receiver tube here, we're going to have a standard 1/2 inch diameter hitch pin hole, which is going to accept a 1/2 inch hitch pin and clip. Keep in mind, this is going to be sold separately. We do sell these here through eTrailer. We also have locking options as well. And then on the bottom of our receiver tube, we're going to have these safety chain loops, which will work great with these smaller S-type hooks, which is probably what you're going to be using. They will, however, also work with the larger clevis hooks. So now we have a couple measurements for you that are going to help you when you're selecting your hitch-mounted accessories. The first one is going to be the ground clearance. So the distance from the ground to the bottom edge of the receiver tube, that's going to be right at 7 inches. The other measurement we have for you is the distance from the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening. That's going to be about 8.5 inches, and that'll be useful when you're selecting your ball mount. And then finally, we're going to have the distance from the center of the hitch pin hole to the outside edge of the bumper. That's going to be 3.5 inches. And that'll be useful when you're selecting your folding accessories, so you can make sure while they're in the folded position that they don't contact the vehicle. So in regards to installation, this is definitely one of the ones you guys can do at home by yourselves. We should be able to do this with just a basic tool set with some sockets. The only modifications we need to do is we do need to enlarge 2 holes just slightly to fit our spacer blocks and carriage bolts through. But aside from that, there's no other modifications needed. Let's go ahead and jump right into that install so we can show you guys how to do it yourselves at home. So the first step of our installation, we actually need to go ahead and lower our exhaust here because we're going to need some space to get the hitch up into position. Now before we do this, what we're going to do is we're going to take a support strap. We're just using a standard cam buckle strap. If you're on the ground, it may make more sense just to use the set of jack stands. But essentially, we're just going to support the exhaust right around this area here. That way, when we break all the hangers free, it doesn't go falling to the ground. So there's going to be 2 holes on the other side of the body here. I'll just simply use those to tie our hooks in. Then I'll pull the cam buckle strap here to provide support. So now we're ready to break the hangers free from the rubber isolators. Now in order to do that, what you're going to want to do first is take a spray lubricant, and we're going to want to spray down each of these rubber isolators here, because it's going to make removing the hangers a heck of a lot easier. So we're just going to spray each one of these down now. 2 on that side, 2 on this side, and then 1 in the center here. So now we can take a pry bar or an exhaust hanger removal tool to get each of those out. We'll go ahead and show you both ways now. So here's what it should look like when we have our exhaust lowered. As you can see now, we have plenty of room to get our trailer hitch up into position. So now we need to come underneath above our exhaust here, directly behind our rear bumper. We're going to see these support tabs we have on either side. They're basically supporting the bottom end of our fascia here to the frame. We need to go ahead and remove these. They're held in place with 2 screws, one on top, one on the bottom. We'll remove these with a 10mm socket. We'll go ahead and return these to the owner. We have 2 screws. We're going to be getting rid of 2 of them, and we're going to be keeping 2 of them. It doesn't matter which ones, just make sure you save 2 for the installation of the hitch. So the next thing we need to do is we're going to come under our vehicle here. We need to go ahead and enlarge our access holes. So the access holes are going to be the ones directly behind the bumper. Now we already came out a little bit on each side here. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking a burr bit here or a step drill bit, and we need to enlarge the hole both lengthwise and widthwise. So it needs to be enough lengthwise to fit in our spacer block, which we can see here, but it also needs to be enough widthwise to be able to fit our carriage bolt through. As you can see there, we still have a little bit more to go. So we're going to take our burr bit here, we're just going to open up the hole a little bit on each side there. And there we go. Now we're going to take a paint marker here. We're just going to cover up all that bare metal so we don't have any issues with rust. So now we can go ahead and get our hardware up into our frame here. In order to do that, we're going to take one of our fish wire leaders here. We're going to stick the coiled end through our rear access hole. We're going to try to fish that out, the front one that we just enlarged. Once we have the coiled end through, we're going to take one of our spacer blocks here. We'll slide that through our square hole. Then I'm going to thread on one of our carriage bolts. Once we have that threaded all the way on, make sure we grab the other end of our fish wire so we don't lose it in the frame. Then we're going to feed our spacer block through and follow that up with our carriage bolt. Now we can pull that out of our hole, just like so. Now for our access hole here that we enlarged, we're going to be using a reverse fish wire technique. It's pretty easy. We'll just take the coiled end of our wire, feed that through the spacer block, then thread on our carriage bolt. Then we're going to stick our carriage bolt up into the frame, follow it up with our spacer block. Then align everything and pull it back through like so. Once we have both of our carriage bolts in place, we'll just go ahead and repeat that same process on the other side. So now with an extra set of hands, we can go ahead and set our hitch up into position, making sure we come up and over the exhaust. So now, once we have it into position, we can go ahead and pull our pull wire off, making sure that our bolt doesn't jump back up into the frame. I'm going to use my finger here, put pressure on it so it doesn't go back up, and we thread on our flange nut. We'll simply do that in these 2 holes and then repeat that same process on the other side. So now we'll take an 11/16 inch deep well socket. We'll go ahead down and snug all of our flange nuts. So the next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our angled bracket that comes in our kit here. It's going to be securing to our fascia tab here, as well as the square hole in our hitch. So we're going to take our smaller carriage bolt that comes in our kit here. We're going to put our bracket up into position, and then we can slide our carriage bolt through the back side, like so. And then that'll get secured using our lock nut. And if you remember, the factory screws that we removed earlier, we use one of those to secure this bracket to our fascia tab. So now we'll take a 10mm socket, tighten down that factory bolt there, and then we'll take an 11mm socket and we'll tighten down the carriage bolt. And once that's tight, we'll simply repeat the same process on the other side. So now we'll come back with our torque wrench here and torque everything down to spec. Now with our hitch installed, we can go ahead and raise our exhaust back up into position. And that'll do it today for our look and installation of the Curt Trailer Hitch Receiver here on our 2020 Mazda MX-5 Miata.